So, almost all the aspects of management is covered here. At a soft skill, hard skill. Almost.
Is it a certificate course, diploma course, PG
so
diploma?
it is known as advanced management program, sir. We are trying to convert it to diploma because postgraduate diploma can be awarded only by the institutions who are recognized by AICTE or the UGC recognition. We can give the diploma, sir, but postgraduate diploma is the name. We are in touch with AICTE, and if they permit, this can be converted to postgraduate diploma. So it has all the ingredients of postgraduate diploma in management. And the two immersion programs happen, one at IIM Ahmedabad and one here because it is online.
Yeah, that's you were saying something.
Yeah, so the two immersion program happen, sir. One at IIM Ahmedabad and one at Mumbai here, because it's an online program, weekend program. The IIM also issues a certificate after completion of 7 days program there.
Sir, IIM Calcutta. IIM Calcutta.
IIM Kolkata.
Yeah.
So here we gave the certificate advanced management program. That is what I think Mr. Sunil Mehta was asking us.
Okay.
So it has all the ingredients and acceptable by the banks also.
Okay. But this is advanced management program for only in the area of banking or across all the disciplines?
Is banking, soft and hard skill both, basically in the banking, but it has the ingredients of leadership, the ethics, other parts also.
Okay. Okay.
Sir, Miss Ravita, who is the course coordinator, she has also joined.
Hello, sir. Sir,
Yes,
good evening, sir.
Good evening. Good evening. I was trying to reach out to you because I was when I logged in, so the session was going on.
Oh, okay,
So
sir.
since I had the password to join, so I also listened for some time, 5 minutes. The session I think was on the typing, right?
Yes, sir. Sir, I'll start the program, sir.
Sure, sure.
Respected Das sir, Mohapatra sir, we welcome you to the IIBF AMP Leader Speak series session today. At the outset, sir, we thank Mohapatra sir for accepting our invitation. Sir, in audience, today we have Deputy CEO Dr. Galande, we have Directors of IIBF, Mr. Mehrotra, Dr. Muralidharan, Mr. Francis. We have, sir, our zonal heads from Delhi, Chennai, Calcutta, and our esteemed faculty. So we have 60 participants this year from the 19 banks and financial institutions. So this is the first time we have a virtual program, and we'll be having a immersion program in IIM Calcutta, which is a 30 hours program. So strategic management, organizational behavior, and macroeconomics for bankers we cover there. So we have participants from SBI, Bank of India, Bank of Baroda, Punjab and Sindh Bank, Union Bank of India, Central Bank of India, KVB. The Tamil Nadu Mercantile Bank had nominated 15 participants, regional heads and zonal heads. Then CCIL, CDISL, Saraswat Cooperative Bank, Mahindra Finance, and Bajaj Finserv. So they are mostly from senior management cadre, regional heads, zonal heads, AGMs, and DGMs.
Okay.
A brief profile about our guest speaker, Shri Pallav Mohapatra. Sir is a gold medalist, BA Statistics from Lucknow University. Sir is a gold medalist, MA Statistics from Utkal University. And Sir is a CIB from IIBF. Sir has been holding the position of Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer, Central Bank of India from 21st of September 2018. Sir is a member governing boards of IIBF, IBPS, and Indian Institute of Bank Management, Guwahati. Sir joined State Bank of India as a probationary officer in 1983. He has handled many important assignments for over 3.5 decades in the bank. Prior to taking over the present assignment, Sir was a Deputy Managing Director, Stressed Assets Resolution Group, State Bank of India. Other important assignments handled by Sir include Chief Executive Officer SBI Cards, Deputy General Manager, Project Management, New Business Corporate Center, Managing Director SBI Custodial Services, Vice President Credit and Forex SBI California Los Angeles, and Chief General Manager New Delhi Circle. So we welcome you to the session. Now I would request Das sir to please give a welcome address.
No audio, no audio.
Am I audible now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Good afternoon, Shri Mohapatra, MD and CEO Central Bank, my colleagues of IIBF, and all the participants. It is a pleasure to have a person like Mr. Pallav Mohapatra amongst us in the Leader Speak series. When we talk of the Leader Speak, and the leaders like Pallav Mohapatra will inspire you going forward when you listen to him. I had the privilege to work with him at Delhi when he was the CGM Delhi. And when we talk of leaders, we have different visions of the leader. Here is a person who is a leader and a leader in person. That means he leads by the example. And he has a value system which inspires all his colleagues alike, the juniors and the seniors and peers alike. The honesty and integrity with which he functions is awe-inspiring. He has the ability to trust the people, delegate the work, and see that the work is done. During his period, Delhi Circle has achieved many laurels. He has the knack for being qualitative more than quantitative. That is the reason, much after he leaves a circle or an assignment, the footprints will continue because there is a change in the qualitative aspects in every sphere of the banking. What you see now in SBI Card as one of the finest subsidiaries of State Bank of India, the foundation was led by Shri Pallav Mohapatra. From a loss-making subsidiary, he has made not only made it to a profit-making subsidiary, but he has seen that the qualitative aspect has also improved and how to deal with the customer complaints. Perhaps I would request him going forward, he can share some of his experiences in SBI Card and his experiments in SBI Card for the benefit of all our participants. When we see the leader, when we see Mr. Pallav Mohapatra as MD and CEO, we only see his MD and CEO, the laurels he has achieved and the position he is occupying. What we do not see is success is like an iceberg. What we see is only 1/3 above. We see the laurels, we see the designation, we see the awards, but what we are not able to see, what is hidden behind, the hard work behind his success, the vision behind the success, the perseverance behind the success, the communication behind the success, all these things, the combination has made Mr. Pallav Mohapatra the person he is and the leader he is. So it is his day, sir. We welcome you to this AMP. This is actually the 9th batch of AMP, widely accepted across the industry. Earlier, it was only the banks who are nominating. Now we are getting nomination from the NBFCs and other non-banking companies also. So, sir, welcome, and I request you to share your the vision, your ideas with the people.
Thank you.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dasab, Mr. Vishwaketan Das, and he was my colleague in Delhi Circle. And thank you, Mr. Mehrotra, and thank you, Ravita Man. And good evening to all the participants. See, I'm not a practicing faculty member. I'm not a practicing academician. I may be a practicing banker, or you can call it a so-called leader. So I will prefer that if instead of going through the the theoretical part of whatever the topic was given on the robust corporate governance and compliance culture, if I basically relate to more of the practical aspects as to how I encounter and how through this particular process, whether good or bad, came out of that. So I feel that since the experience I have gained or the lessons I have learned over a period of time, through this particular process and through this opportunity which IIBF has given, and I share with the leaders who are basically the participants who are the leaders in the pipeline, if they are able to gain something out of that, that will be good for them, and that will be also good for the organization where they are working or where they intend to work. Now, when we talk about corporate governance, this issue is really so important, and sometimes it from the terminology, many people think that that is a very boring subject, and what is the corporate governance and why there should be a corporate governance, and if all the people are working as per the rules and regulations or as per the directions of the organization, then why there is a need for the corporate governance? My dear friends, you must be aware that what happened in many global companies world over, to name a few, Enron is one of them, happened in Satya. So when we look at these companies, or what happened to so many companies during the global meltdown, like this Lehman Brothers, who would have doubted what the Lehman Brothers was basically doing prior to the meltdown? So these are the examples, these are the lessons which basically drive the leaders and also the ecosystem, that whether the corporate governance is important, number one. If it is important, whether this is fixed for times to come, or this should also change with the change in the ecosystem. Now, in very simplistic definition, I basically have relate corporate governance with three words. One is the trust, second is transparency, and third is accountability. Now, if there is a very robust corporate governance in any organization, that is basically laid down so that all the stakeholders who are involved in that or engaged with the organization, they have the trust in the organization. The stakeholders include also the employees. The second point is the transparency. One is, I have corporate governance or I don't have corporate governance. To what extent I am basically making it open to others to see it. The third is, if we have the corporate governance and we are practicing corporate governance, are we accountable? Unless in any leadership practice in whichever area, if the accountability is missing, in my opinion, that particular leadership is not meaningful, is not effective, and over a long period of time will not give the result to the expectation of the stakeholders of the organization. Now, whenever there is a corporate governance, whether it is defined as per the international bodies, or it is defined in India as per the Companies Act, or as per the SEBI regulation, or even as per the RBI regulation, or the statutory regulation by the Government of India, in whatever form. So these are being followed by the organizations, and especially these are to be followed by the organizations which are listed companies, because a lot of people are basically investing in these companies, so they should know what is the company like or what the organization is doing. Based on this or related to this corporate governance, The most important thing which comes to my mind also, and which was also given in the subject today, that is the compliance culture. Now the question is, people may talk about that no one can exist not being compliant with the regulation, not being compliant with the instructions of the organization itself, not being compliant with the statute or the law of the land. But with my experience, I can share with you, and I can say that even today, 75%, whether within the organization or organization today, altogether, 75% compliance culture is missing. The only compliance which is mainly there is that whatever the MD says, whether I am compliant with that or not. The question is whether whatever the MD or the number one in the organization is saying, that is in compliance with the existing regulation or not. No one basically is having the guts to even ask the MD or even challenge the MD that, sir, this particular thing is not as per whatever is the rule of the land. So this compliance culture, which should not be compliant with the instructions of the MD only, but this should be basically compliance of all the rules and regulations, the statutes, the regulatory guidelines, or whatever. So I basically believe that whether this type of compliance culture is there or not, and this type of compliance culture will be there only when all the employees of the organization, including the subordinate staff in the organization, they are also aware of what are the basic rules and the regulations which apply to that particular organization in which they are working. For that, whether the organization is really cognizant of this fact and they keep on doing the updation of this compliance within the organization or not, that is number one question. Whether this through this particular process of the updating, whether there is a back testing of compliance, which is basically followed by the organization, that is number two. Now, whether this even training or awareness program, they are doing it only for the sake of having some checkbox system, or they really mean it. So these are various questions which a leader through his entire professional career, he comes across. And sometimes he has to face this. He faces this head on and tries to resolve it. He may get the success, he may not get the success. That is something different. But if he follows that and he means it, then what I feel is, to a great extent, this will spread in the organization and others will also realize what is the importance of the corporate governance and what is the importance of having a robust compliance culture in the organization. As I said at the outset, that instead of going into the theory part, because I'm not an academician, so I will not be able to basically touch upon the theory part so I will say efficiently as I can do it through my experiences. As Mr. Das was saying, and it was in the introduction part also, Ravita ma'am also gave the background that what type of assignments I have gone through. I will not touch base upon all the assignments, because in all the assignment it was not always linked to the accountability was on the part for corporate governance and the compliance. Compliance was of course there, because when you are working in any organization, and that too in a financial sector, at each level everyone is responsible and accountable for the compliance. But for the corporate governance, which is, I will say, the mostly related to a very to a high level, so I will only relate or recount some of my experiences in my role as head of 2 joint ventures in State Bank of India, and one which I am currently doing, and I will be in this bank for another 3 months, and after that I will be superannuating. So I will basically give some of these examples as to what were the challenges which I came across, and to what extent I was able to basically resolve. Normally, people say that the international bodies or these multinational giants, their corporate governance level and their compliance level are very, very robust. I will share with you one example in one assignment. When I went there as managing director, what I found was that it was a way card, and the joint venture partner was G Capital. And G Capital, now of course G is not that strong globally as it was at that point of time. At that point of time, I think it was the strongest multinational giant. So when I went there and was taking over the charge, what I found was every quarter there is a meeting of audit committee. Every quarter after the audit committee, there used to be a meeting of the board, and some PPT on the financials of the company used to be presented to the audit committee and after that to the board. It came to my mind that why only the financial, and what about these financials having been seen by the auditor? When I raised this question, so the reply was that for unlisted companies like us, it is not mandatory that we should get the limited review of our quarterly results. So that's why we are not doing it. I said that in the presentation, what I see is only the business parameters have been shown, but nothing is being shown on what is the bottom line, how the expenses are moving, how the income is coming, how this is impacting the profitability of the organization. Since State Bank of India was owning more than 50% of share in that joint venture, so CAC was doing the audit. That means the final annual results of the company can be finalized after the statutory audit only if it is audited by or reviewed by CAC. So I approached CAC and I requested CAC. At that time, CAC was Mr. Vinod Rai, and he's a very well-known figure. Many of you must be knowing him. When I approached him, I said, sir, I basically want there should be a limited review, and the statutory auditor who is being appointed by you, by CAC, should also undertake this quarterly review on a quarterly basis. And he totally agreed to it. That was the experience I gained, that if you try to even impress upon your joint venture partner, which is a multinational giant, and who may not be that much aware of the limited review process in case of the unlisted companies in India, how even the review to be done in the unlisted companies brings in more transparency in the company. So they were very, very appreciative of that effort. So this is one part of the corporate governance, that though it was not required, but I thought that if we pay something extra to the statutory auditors and try to get the limited review done, and this limited review through the process of being put up to the audit committee recommending it to the board, that is the right process, even if you are not listed. The second thing which I learned there was, I'm talking about the corporate governance, that there was a system for approving the expenditure in the company. A lot of the expenditure, I'm talking about these overheads, miscellaneous expenditure, where there was a tool of G And through this particular tool, it was going up to the head of the GE capital of the country for approval. And of course, it was also going through the MD of the MD and CEO of the SBI card. But the question was that the head of GE capital in India was also on the board. So I raised the question that if, first of all, where is the delegation of financial power? Everything is going up to the country head of GE capital, number one. Number two, if it is going to the country head of the GE capital, what about the majority shareholder? It is not going to any senior officer of SBI or any director of SBI who is on the board of this company. So, and since the country head of GE capital is on the board of the company, so don't, and he is not the whole-time director in the company, isn't there a conflict of interest? This was thoroughly deliberated in the meeting, and one of the directors from the GE on the board of SBI card was Mr. John Flannery, and who later on became the chairman of GE for whatever reasons he had to resign after some time. He was so appreciated that how we consider ourselves as Americans to be so strong in the corporate governance, and one MD who joined the company only 6 months back or 7 months back, he has come out and shown us that this is not the right practice we have been doing for years today. So that is the corporate governance. That is the lesson we learned, and making it more transparent and taking out the concept of interest from the entire particular process. In the theory, we know that the MD and CEO, and if there is a non-executive chairman, so they cannot be a part of the audit committee. Then though the chairman who will head the audit committee cannot be a part of, say, management committee. So these are all laid down in Companies Act or SEBI guidelines. But the question is, how you as a leader follow these, not only these guidelines, you have to follow these guidelines because there is no option. Otherwise, it will be treated as breach of regulation. Or over and above this, what else you follow to bring in or to make the corporate governance in the organization more robust? That is how we should basically look at things, and by learning the best practices across how we implement. Of course, implementation, I can tell you that the implementation is really very, very difficult, because sometimes, because whatever the practice has been going on, and when you try to bring in something new, there will be always a resistance for a change. Even the resistance will come even from the board level, or at the board level meetings, or somewhere else. So these are the lessons I learned, that why it is necessary to bring in these changes. As Mr. Vishwaketman Das was saying that about the customer service. Now, the customer service model in the bank, not in the bank, in SBI card, was very robust, and basically this the customer relationship management platform on which the company was running, that was the platform which was given by GE, and that was at that point of time was considered to be, I will say considered within the inverted comma, to be one of the best CRM platform. When I went deep into that particular platform, I am not an IT guy, then I felt that most probably this particular platform has outlived its life, and there is a need for change or revamping of this platform. So what happens is, so the process is to be adopted, and when the process is adopted, and all the stakeholders within the company, they get their views, and something is started to be, and some consultant is appointed, the vendor is appointed, and then the process starts. When this was taken to the board for approval of the the investment in this particular platform, the first question which the G Capital director, there were 3 directors from G and 5 directors from SBI. So the G Capital director asked a very, I would say, normal and standard question. Where is the cost benefit analysis? Now, because this is basically taught in many financial management program, whatever investment you make, there has to be a cost benefit analysis. And for the first time, the board members heard, and for some time, Mr. Pradeep Chaudhary, chairman of SBI, was the chairman of the company, and after that, Madam Arundhati Bhattacharya took over. I said there are some investments in technology which are investment in hygiene, and there is no cost benefit analysis for that. And it was a very bold statement I made in the board meeting. For few seconds, everyone was stunned. And after that, they realized what I was talking about. And then the board approved that let us go with this particular investment. And this investment is not for today. This investment is going to work for years to come. I said, sir, I can convert the benefits of this investment into some numbers and show you the cost benefit analysis that this is positive. But that will be only an academic exercise for the board members. So try to, sir, I will request the board members to focus more on why we want to go with this. The basic change which we did in that CRA module, I don't want to go into the technicalities of that. I just want to share. Now, whenever there is a call which is coming to this customer service agent, now the caller, he knows that through how many modes he has approached the company to lodge his complaint. So he will say that first I called you up on such and such date. I sent you the email on such and such date. I sent you the hard copy by post on such and such date. But that poor customer service agent is not aware, because he has picked up the call and whatever is coming on the screen, he is only able to relate to that. For the first time, we introduced a platform way back in 2012, where on the screen itself, all the touch points with that customer has basically touched to relate whatever his issue with the company, whether it is through the hard, which is called as a white mail, that is the hard copy, whether through the email or through the helpline, everything was there on the screen. So the customer service agent can easily relate to what extent this customer has been pained because of this particular problem. The third point, third point on this customer service, first of all on this investment, and then on the customer service. Many of the State Bank of India senior executives may be aware that earlier there was a lot of problem because this SBI card was also sourcing or issuing the card for the customers of SBI. Now, a lot of complaint because of the recommendation of the branch manager and the branch managers under the control of the regional managers under the control of the deputy general managers, and going up to the CGM of the circle also. They used to receive a lot of complaints that things are not moving in SBI card, and whatever the complaint is lost is not being attended to by SBI card. What I thought, again, this is on the transparency part. I called my customer service head, the vice president of customer service. I said on the website and the customer service page on the website, you put my name and also you put my email ID on that. He said, sir, you will be bombarded with the mails, and in no organization, the chief executive officer puts his name and his mail ID for the customer to lodge the complaint. I said, whatever it is, I want this to be done. My dear friends, this was done. Initially, I used to receive around 500 complaints, 500 to 1,000 complaints per day. And in order to handle that particular the workload, I used to come, because in SBI card, Saturday, Sunday used to be non-working days. I used to come on Saturday, Sunday and go through these complaints, and wherever it used to be marked with my comments, I used to do it. And gradually, over a period of 3 months, this came down to only 50 to 60. What else I did? It is not only that I was basically forwarding this, since the complaints were being forwarded by the CEO to the respective department heads and giving the timeline that they should be done within this particular timeline. So there was a lot of pressure on these departments also to comply with the instructions of the MD, CEO. Other than that, I wanted to know that what type of conversation is going on between the customer service head, customer service agent, and the customer. This now, I think, in many organizations, and I also did it in Central Bank of India, and whenever I get time, I used to do it. For the first time in any organization, the live call bargain system was put on the landline instrument of the MD and CEO. So every day, religiously taking out, say something, someday half an hour, depending on my time availability, I used to pick up the instrument, and through the entry process, I used to bargain live conversation between the customer and our customer service agent. And why I did it? Because I wanted to hear from the ground level that how the customers are feeling and what they want. Whether we are trying to push the products down the throat of the customers, or these are the products which are liked by the customers. Every day I fix a time, a rhythm, that at 4:30, not the customer service head, number 2 or number 3, along with the respective officers, should come and discuss with me all the mails relating to the customer complaint across the table, and I will give the decision then and there itself. So this is another way that how I try to keep in touch with the customer, who is a very, very important stakeholder. I try to do it in Central Bank of India, but the success which I got in SBI card was much more than whatever the success I have so far got in Central Bank of India. The third, another point I would just want to relate, that is again on the compliance culture. When I took over as the CEO, I called all the business heads. So I had a meeting with all the heads of the verticals, including the risk, legal, compliance, and all the business heads. I made it very clear that the head of the risk, head of the compliance, and head of the law will not give their opinion or their advices linked to the whether this is going to impact the business or not. They will give their opinions irrespective whether it will impact the business or not, and if the business is to be done based on whatever the initiative the business head has come up with. As MD and CEO of the organization, I will override if there is anything coming in the way of the opinion being given by the risk department. Say, for example, people were surprised. He said that you are taking all the responsibility onto yourself. If the risk department says that this particular model is going to create more problem in the bank, in the company, then you will be solely responsible because you are overriding the opinion given by the head of the risk. I said yes, because I do not want a colored opinion given just because the CEO wants the business to grow. if I see all the sides and I'm taking a decision, most probably, because I will take a decision. The decision can be right or wrong, that I have no control, only the future will tell. But I will be taking a decision which is a decision taken on informed information given to, I mean, say, well-informed decision I'm going to take. This I learned. See, when I was in SBI and I was heading the project management office as a DGM for payment service, and after that I was made MD and CEO of SBI SG Global Securities. Earlier it was named as SBI Custodial Services, and then Societe Generale joined as a joint venture partner. There we recruited one head of marketing at a very, very high cost. And so there was a management audit of new business department under whom this particular company was functioning. That means this company was reporting to the head of the new business department in SBI. So the CGM of the management audit asked me that, wow, the process being followed for the recruitment of this marketing head is not very, very transparent, is not even based on the standard process. So I discussed with him, I gave my point. Then he told me one thing, that Mr. Mohapatra, in SBI things are also happening like this, that whatever the chairman says, that particular statement goes down to the desk officer, and the desk officer prepares the note based on that instruction. And he used the word that most of the memos or the office memorandum are basically doctored. Whether doctored or not doctored, I'm not going into that aspect. But I learned one thing is, whenever if I become the head of any organization, I will listen to everyone, and I should be really confident of myself if this particular business is to be done, even if risk is saying that these are the risks. So I will be able to say, no, despite these risks, we want to do this business. I don't want the other departments to give me a doctored report so that I am insulated from any future question. There's another advice I'm not saying that always do without listening to others. But what I'm trying to say is that as the leader, we should be so self-confident that if we strongly believe this is the right thing for the organization, and with due justification, why not to do it? And do it through a process. I'm not saying do it without following a process. Whether the board approval is required, whether any other approval is required, do it within the and also do it within the framework of regulation. That is called the corporate governance. That is called the compliance culture. Another thing is regarding compliance culture. SBI Card, every year there was a review meeting with RBI. It was an NBFC. So in the review meeting, once the CGM of RBI Delhi, because it was headquartered in Gurgaon, so we used to be called to Delhi for the review meeting. The CGM of RBI said, Pallav, to be very frank, Mr. Mohapatra, we do not know this particular business, credit card business. Most of this business is being done within the banks. So we so far have not basically got a grip on this particular business. You are the, first of all, majority holding by a public by the largest bank in the country. If you can suggest to us what regulatory changes can be brought in. Sir, I will share with you some points where many would not have agreed at that point of time. As per in 2012-13, the regulatory norms for provisioning in case of the NBFC was that in 180 days, 84% provision is to be made, and in 540 days, the remaining 14% or 16% provision was to be made. There was nothing like 120 days, 90 days, nothing of that sort. In 12-13, for the first time, I brought in a provisioning for at 25% at 120 days. And then in the subsequent year, 90 days overdue with a provisioning of 25%. A senior member of the board, ex-chairman of State Bank of India, very well regarded in the industry, Mr. D. Basu. And when the papers went to all the directors, he called me up before the board meeting. He said, Pallav, what you are doing? I said, I couldn't understand. He said that, Pallav, you are making provisions much more than whatever is required as per the regulation. I said, yes, sir. He said, why? I said, sir, I am making the provision. The provision doesn't mean that I am spending the money. I am building up the strength of the balance sheet. He said, Pallav, you are showing an annual profit of 300 crore. 2 years back, it was in loss. You could have easily shown a profit of more than 500 crore. And which CEO will not like to show more profit? I said, sir, I am a different type of person. I want this company on a long-term sustainable basis rather than whatever I showed today and tomorrow again it goes back into red. My dear friends, I just want to share with you, from 2015-16, RBI itself came out with this regulation of provision at 25% for 90 days. SBI card was saved from the big hits because it already had made those provisions. RBI once discussed with me that, Pallav, Mr. Mohapatra, there are some customers who are making advance payments. I said, yes, sir, some of the customers who basically go abroad, they don't want to remember when is the due date, and they don't also want to default. So they make the advance payment, and whatever was the due amount is taken, is basically adjusted, and the remaining remains as the credit balance in the card account. He said, Mr. Mohapatra, you are using their funds, which is in the nature of a deposit, because they are depositing additional amount, and you are not a deposit taking institution. Is it the right way? I said, fine, but how I can say no to the customer? He said, find a way out. I came with a way out because this company was not a deposit taking company. So the source of funding was basically the borrowing. So the company was maintaining the cash credit account. So suppose any customer is making advance payment, the entire advance payment is credited to the cash credit account. To that extent, the interest expense to that on that particular amount to that extent comes down, and that basically builds up some profitability in the company. I said nothing doing. The advance amount will be created into a separate current account the company will open with the bank, and this amount will go into that. My CFO said, sir, but we will be basically bearing the interest expenditure on the availment of the loan, otherwise this loan amount would have come down. I said, well, but this money is not basically for that purpose. There was a system that irrespective what happens, if a check has been issued and it remains unpaid, so very, very religiously and in a routine manner, every 3 years, it used to be encashed and monetized. I said it will not be done. This is not the real revenue that the company is getting. Every year we will get the audit of more than 3 years unpaid checks by the statutory auditors, and wherever they say that there is no possibility of these checks, only those checks we will be monetizing. So my dear friends, what I just want to share with you is that whether you want to basically attract the limelight by showing the result today, and then when you leave the organization, whatever happens to the organization is not your baby. With that, whether you want this approach to be followed or you want the other approach to be followed, where you also show some profit, but you also want to build up the organization on a sustainable basis, so that in future also that organization keeps on going up and up and up, whether that is the right process, that is the right approach or not. I am very happy that after even leaving that company kept on going up and up and up. And now many of you may be knowing at what state that particular company is. So this is by having a transparent way of doing things and by making myself as accountable for whatever I am doing. So this I try to do in all my assignments. Some of the corporate governance which officer at a middle level or a junior level cannot do it, but at a senior level like MD and CEO, they can do it. So I try to practice all this in my 36 years of experience so far. And I am quite satisfied that I practice this. I learned the lessons from my seniors, from my peers, from my colleagues. And wherever I learned the lessons, and I try to basically do a course correction or even admit that this is not the right thing which I am doing. So let me change this particular process. I always kept my ears open to positive feedback, not the negative feedback, only the positive feedback, how things can be done. Because my message to everyone as a leader used to be that I want to hear from you how things can be done. I don't want to hear from you that the things cannot be done. So, my dear friends, this is basically sharing with you my experience in a very, very brief manner, because in a lot of instances, I have a lot of things I learned during my career. I am thankful to State Bank of India that the type of exposure it has given to me. Most probably, it has not given to so many people, so many officers in the bank, and this type of exposure has really helped me to become I would say, a better leader. Whether I became a better leader or not, that is the world to judge. But at least it gave me a lot of self-confidence. So I will now, Dasab, open the floor if anyone wants to ask any question.
Yes, sir. Thank you for this lucid presentation of your experience as well as the learnings, which will go a long way for all the participants, as you rightly said, sir. And the participants, you have the one of its kind opportunity to interact with a person having a brilliant academic career and a brilliant banker, and presently the MD and CEO, who has seen many aspects of the banking, and he has lived through his personal example. If the floor is open, you can ask the questions, if any.
Hello, sir. Good evening, sir.
Sir, very good evening, sir.
Sir, good evening, sir.
Sir, this is Murali Krishna calling
Yes,
from
sir.
Hyderabad.
Yes.
Sir, respected sir, we are very thankful for your enlightened experience sharing with us and bold decisions while you are discharging in your regular functions. So just you are a practical banker and many more experience rather than me. Just theoretically, I want to ask 2-3 questions, sir. Please permit me.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Because presently I'm working for Bank of Baroda in a large corporate department. So in my experience, what I'm come to know that banks are lending crores of rupees in case of large corporate segment. We are lending, all the public sector banks or private sector banks, thousands of crores we are lending to the many companies, infrastructure, manufacturing, whatnot. But what I'm observing is banks are more particular about the post completion of the transaction, means post audit, forensic audit, concurrent audit, whatnot. After completion of the transaction, they are observing the client performance and culture. Whereas my point of observation is, sir, when we are giving a loan of more than 250 crore or more than 200 crores to any client, why can't a banks are not sending their representative in while taking a particular company in their decision making? I think it is a part of corporate governance.
Yes, sir.
Of course, I know the provision. As per the Reserve Bank Act, we are nominating some of the banks when the company going into after the post ascertaining the stress only. What I come across it, sir.
Okay.
When only restructuring happening, then only we are appointed. But pre-restructuring, when the account is good, we are not taking a call. If we are taking a call, that would be a better mechanism, monitoring mechanism. What I feel, sir, you please add your point.
Sir, regarding at the assessment stage, or I will say appraisal of the project stage, the process as of today is the merchant bankers are getting the project appraised, because I think that you are talking about the large projects. So in most of these projects, the merchant bankers, they appoint or the merchant bankers themselves are doing, or they are engaging some experts to do it. But one message I want to give to all of you who are basically working in the corporate finance world, and I have also worked in the corporate finance department in the bank, as well as both I have dealt with the good accounts, I have also dealt with the bad accounts. So one thing is very clear, that we talk a lot of things about post disbursement compliances, that whether inspection has been done or not, whether we have ensured the end user funds or not, whether we have basically gone through the audit report and verified the audited balance sheet with the balance sheet which they have uploaded on the MCA website or not. The X, Y, so many things, and I will say that 95% of the things are post disbursement compliance, but very few are focusing on the pre-disbursement, which is basically the appraisal stage. My dear friend, I can tell you with a lot of authority, and no one can challenge you. If you don't understand that particular project, if you don't understand that particular activity, raise the question that I do not understand, I want full details of that. I can share with you that this InvIT, financing an InvIT company, right? Many people say that now the future is InvIT company, and most of these good companies will be basically transferring their debt to the InvIT, right? Whether it is a real estate InvIT or it is a non-real estate InvIT. I got, so these big banks with their syndication teams, they keep on meeting me. So one syndication team from one bank came and met me. My GM credit was also there. I asked a question that I don't understand what is InvIT. MD said without any hesitation that he is expressing his ignorance. I said, sir, I don't understand what is InvIT. If you can walk me through this process of the InvIT, and also convince me whenever I raise the questions in between, then be sure we will take part in this particular syndication which you have come out with. Sir, he gave the presentation. He was not able to convince me on many points which I raised. I said, sorry, sir, I cannot invest in this InvIT. The point is, the very simple point is, and I think if every one of us will look into ourselves or see ourselves on the mirror, many of us who basically go up the ladder, they don't want to ask questions. They think if I ask the question, so my ignorance will be basically open to the person who is sitting on the other side, and what he will think that he is the MD, he doesn't know. My answer to that is, if I don't know, I am putting depositors' money into that, I have all the right to know. The bank, our bank, had a lot of exposure in the road development, road developers, and mainly on the BOT, And when this HAM came, I was a little bit interested on the HAM projects, because at least one particular risk, there are two risks in case of the road development. One is the construction risk, the second is the revenue risk or the toll risk. At least the toll risk is covered under the HAM. But still then, I got a policy on the HAM project approved by the board, so that the implementation at all levels will be in a very, very uniform way. This is what the corporate governance is, what I feel. It may not be written in any of the act, but if you have a system and procedure which is structured in a way, whether in the form of policy or in the form of SOP, then either the business will be done within the framework of that, or some will be doing it outside the framework. Then anyone who is doing outside the framework will be the breach of that particular policy or SOP. So you know in advance, or you will be knowing at every point of time whether the governance is right or wrong. This is in Central Bank of India. I am seeing, I think Mr. A.K. Mishra is also, I am able to see on the screen. A.K. Mishra was a GM in Delhi. He knows very well that I strongly believe in any process, whether even if for the one time this OTS proposals, even for the net present value, this entire policy is approved by the board. I'm not talking about only the non-discretionary or non-discriminatory OTS schemes, one-time settlement scheme. I'm talking about other than the NDND scheme, even the formula under which the NPV is to be worked out is given in the policy itself. I strongly believe that is the corporate governance. I believe you may disagree with me, but that is my belief, that if we follow system and process, if we have documented these in the right way, I think it will go a long way to make the organization robust and to strengthen the processes in the organization. And this is not today, whatever I am thinking today is the end of the day. This will keep on changing. Even the policies will also undergo changes with the change in the ecosystem.
Sir, one more point, sir. Sir, you're already taken one bold decision and more provisioning when the Reserve Bank did not came out at that time.
Yes, sir.
But why Indian banks did not taken a call? Because the accounting is a basic language. Accounting is a basic language of business. When across the world is following the IFRS and Ind AS, why we could not able to follow? Why? Because all banks are afraid we need to provide more provision. We do not have the capital. That's why we could not afford to report the Ind AS model or IFRS model. What is the
Sir, the basic difference in case of the Ind AS and IFRS model is, first of all, why we are not basically switching over to Ind AS, because unless the government of India gives the clearance, we cannot switch over. Earlier, this was I think the banking industry was to switch over to Ind AS by 31st March. But since that some amendment in the act is to be done was not done, so that's why we have not moved. Now, it is not necessary that if we move to Ind AS, the provisioning will go up. It is not necessary. If you go through the quarterly Ind AS statement, which you must be, your bank must be regularly submitting to RBI, and compare with your the profit which you are doing based on the Indian GAAP, you will find that in some quarters your profit is more than, as per the Ind AS, than the Indian GAAP. The reason is very simple, that if you are more into the investment, and if you are doing more investment in the SLR portfolio, your profit will be much more, because there in the Ind AS they allow you even to book the appreciation, which the Indian GAAP doesn't. Whereas in case of trade, there will be a problem. There may be a problem because we are going as per the Indian GAAP, the probability of default method. Whereas in case of Ind AS, it will be on the expected trade default. So these are the differences. So it is not the provisioning. The second point, what I want to say is the SBI card, I did it because at that time RBI was not very confident of what type of regulation they should bring in for credit card business. I did it. But one thing I can tell you, sir, and if you look at the performance of many banks and especially the public sector banks, the provision has gone up to more than 80%. The requirement is provision coverage ratio is 70% now. In most of the banks, it has gone beyond even 85%, 86%. Here, I have a little bit different view on this. You keep on increasing the provision coverage ratio. And when you keep on increasing the provision, that means you are basically providing for the future rainy day, right? That is the provision. Why you do the provisioning? Because if suppose something goes wrong, then at least you have something in your books. But beyond a point, and I'm stressing on this, beyond a point, I don't know that point is 70% or 80%. Beyond a point, this excessive provisioning is not the right way. And again, I am making a very bold statement why it is not a right way. Because the provisioning is coming from the profit of the bank. Now, when you take out the provision from the profit of the bank to meet the capital adequacy, either you have to raise the funds or you have to increase the profitability so that you can take care of the capital adequacy. If either the capital adequacy will come down or it may come down to the level of breaching. Whether the capital market today in the country has got that much of depth to feed to this type of requirement of the entire banking sector. And if we don't do it, the other way will be so to save on the breach of capital adequacy. I will not increase my asset base, or if I increase my asset base, I will look only into the high rated assets so that the risk weight is low, capital deployment requirement is low. So again, that is my viewpoint. Many may disagree, but too much of provisioning is also not right. I've seen some banks have done provisioning of more than 90%. Again, sir, I'm sorry in some matters, and Vishwaketan Das knows it very well, that I have some radical thoughts, and this may not appeal to be really acceptable by many, but this is the way, and I have my own logics for that. It may be right or wrong.
Sir, good evening, sir. I am Pramod. Hello, sir. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, sir.
Continue.
Sir, I am Chief Manager Pramod from Bank of India. Many times it is seen that, sir, many of the rights of the workers and officers have been achieved with the active participation of unions. But it is also a factor that something called militant unionism is a bane, is a threat to the bank's progress. With your experience, sir, what is your take on this, sir? What is the remedy?
Sir, if you are transparent and above board, and whatever regulation you are following, whatever approach you are following, that is good for the employees of the organization. Howsoever militant the union may be, they will fall in line. I will give you one example here again. When I joined the Central Bank of India, Mr. A.K. Mishra can endorse that. The first thing I came across, first of all, the EDs were very happy that MD is going to take lunch with them in the dining room. When I went to the dining room, I found there was no one else. I asked the question, why this room is empty? They said, sir, earlier this canteen subsidy was being given, but it was because of this bank was in PCA or the austerity measures, this has been withdrawn. I called my GMHR. I said, what is the total impact of this canteen subsidy in the bank? He said 6 crore or 7 crore. I said the bank is losing so much on making provisions on the under the IRAC, and we are taking out this 6 crore, 7 crore, which is basically for the welfare of the employees. from the next month onwards, I got the approval from the board, and from next month onwards, without the unions approaching me to reintroduce this canteen subsidy, I did it. Not only this, whether this is the rate of interest on the housing loan, whether this is the vehicle loan for the new recruits, or whatever, despite this bank being PCA, whatever is possible within the resources of the bank, I did it for the welfare of the employee, because I strongly believe, sir, and I believe in this particular principle: employee first and customers
Sir,
next.
I agree, sir. But my point was,
But
when they
after
are
that,
making,
I just want to
when
complete.
they are making
After
unreasonable
that,
demand, when they are
after
making,
that,
sir.
after that, sir, you can discuss with, you can find out from your colleagues in Central Bank of India. Sir, after that, I hold every quarter meeting with these unions, majority unions, all the three, the officer, the workman, and also the SCST union. Sir, I put the questions before them. This is the position of the bank. You give me the suggestion that why this bank is not working on these lines. There is dead silence, sir. They never go on any, because they know that before they will come out with any welfare, because see how they will win the support of their members, only by raising the issues before the management. Management itself is taking care of the welfare of the employees. The management is not giving the opportunity to the unions. The union is, the employees are happy, so union but natural has to remain happy. This is my aim. I don't know about Bank of India, what is happening there, but this I am sure, and I have told the unions very clearly. I said that I will, till I am here, and I am also documenting this, that if there is no malafide, if there is no criminal negligence in the discharge of duty, no question will be asked, or the question may be asked, but no action will be taken against a person who has taken a decision. As simple as that. And this I make it very clear to the unions also. I said, sir, if suppose he is giving a loan and he is not taking an equitable mortgage, then he is putting the bank into loss, knowingly. So this is criminal negligence. One is his own involvement. So I am not going to tolerate in this. And also on the other side, if he has taken the decision in the most fair manner, because if he doesn't take the decision, then it will be more harmful to the bank, no action will be taken. So far, sir, militancy, because I don't know whether you are aware or not, Central Bank of India is the most unionized bank. All the top leaders, you will find these trade union leaders are from Central Bank of India. And when we were doing this wage negotiation, I was a part of the wage negotiation team from the IBA. Out of this United Forum, out of I think 10 representatives, 4 were from four were ex Central Bank of India employees. So I have dealt with them, and I feel no threat or no challenge from them. But the only thing is, if you are right and you feel that you are right, I don't think that there is any need for being afraid with the unions. And unions will also not create problems for you. This is my feeling.
Sir, good evening, sir.
Yes, sir, you are right,
Sir.
sir. Nowadays, union effect was somehow reduced, sir. They are also cooperating according to the condition of the bank. They are also thinking about the bank and privatization that are going on. That's why they are also in the line with the management, and they are also cooperating to bring the bank in the line.
Sir, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir, good evening, sir. I want to ask some basic question, and before that, I want to share a small experience with you, sir. And maybe 15 days ago, we have visited to a leading private sector bank to book a FD along with my wife. My wife wanted to book a FD in a public sector bank, leading private sector bank, and we went 3 times to book a 1 FD in their branch. And the bank is very good, ambience very good, staff also is there, and all experienced staff are there. And only thing is the customer service. I want to ask how to improve a customer service in the public sector bank. And 3 times after visited 3 times, we could book a FD, a small FD, a simple basic service. That is a very basic service. And we visited 3 times for a book one FD. And how to improve customer service, because what happened, sir? And even if you don't do customer service, youth may not be interested to come to public sector banks. So how to overcome this thing? Because it's a very leading private sector, public sector bank. And how to improve the public service in public sector banks.
Sir, the improve the customer service is a very, very wide subject. But the only thing is, if you have the empathy, you means every one of us working in the organization have the empathy for the customer. And we have this in our mind that the customer is always right unless it is proved that he is wrong. If this type of approach or this type of attitude is there across, sir, you are a banker, you know that in most of the cases, whenever there is a customer complaint, the response from whichever department or whichever section you get, it will be that the customer was wrong. So unless we, and this subject is quite wide, I will not be able to cover. The only thing what I want to convey to all of you is, if all of us change our attitude, we are human beings, we have ego, we have, sometimes the arrogance may also come in the way, how this customer is teaching me how to do the banking. But if we have this approach or the attitude that the customer, whatever he is saying is right, unless it is proved that he is wrong, I think it will take care of many of the cases.
Sir, only thing is public has still a lot of faith on our public sector banks, and we are not.
No, I'm not differentiating between the public sector and the private sector. I'm only talking about the customer service.
Yeah.
This particular attitudinal change, if we are able to bring it, because this attitude is still there, whether public sector or private sector, because we still carry sort of an ego that we are bankers. We know much more than what the other the person on the other side is saying, right?
Yes, sir.
If we are able to change this, see, we are doing the business, we are getting the revenue, we are getting everything from those customers. Carrying this ego, in what way is helping the organization or helping us? It is just like you have your son. If you argue with him that I have got this much of experience, and you are telling me this, even becoming a teenager. So that means we are creating a sort of a conflict. So this is my simple solution to this major problem. This is really the major problem. I am not basically differentiating between a public sector or a private sector.
Okay, sir. Thank you
Good
so
evening,
much.
good evening, sir. I have one question, sir. The attitude, may I ask, sir?
Yes, sir. Sure.
So the attitude of retail customer and corporate customer is different. With the same staff and infrastructure, sometimes it's very difficult to switch and handle these types of attitude of both customers, because corporate customers have their own attitude. They want everything on a fingertip and a very short span of time. So we are facing this as a public sector bank to handle these types of attitude.
Sir, I am not talking about the attitude of the customer. I am talking about the attitude of we. That means we bankers. If we change our attitude, I do agree that there will be sometimes the pressure of work. There will be sometimes some demands which are not right demands. But if there are demands which are not the right demands or not acceptable demands, there is a way to say no.
Sir, yes, sir. Yes, right, sir. What we are also seeing on a grassroots level, the officers are not ready to take ownership. They have developed their own mindset that we don't.
That is another major problem. that is another major problem. You forget about the grassroots level. I can tell you with confidence, even at the central office level. I don't know from in which bank you are working, but even in the central office level, many of the vertical heads, many of the departmental heads, they also don't own what they are doing. This lack of ownership is killing the banking industry.
So any suggestions in this regarding, sir?
Sir, we have to, the only suggestion in a short time that I have got is that we have to change ourselves first without thinking of changing others. If you change yourself first, then you yourself see that others either will automatically change or they may change based on your guidance. This from my experience I am telling you. I have handled public sector employees. I have handled people from the market because I was the MD and CEO of 2 joint ventures where 95% of the employees were from the market and remaining 5% were from the 2 sponsor banks. So I have dealt, and I'm quite sure that in some cases it will take more time, in some cases in a very short period of time, but they will change if you are right.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
That's up. I think we overshot.
Sir,
right?
With your experience and the way of expression, the questions will keep on coming. But nevertheless, sir, thank you. And all the participants, I think you would have enjoyed talking to Mr. Pallav Mohapatra.
Yes, sir.
But one thing I want to tell the participants, I shared with from my experience, and in some areas I was not that much successful. In some areas I was successful. So I didn't share these thoughts that you do it, you will be successful. I shared with you, if you do it, from my experience, I can tell you that you will be in a better position to handle the situation. That is the only disclaimer I want to give.
Yes, sir. So the purpose of sir bringing the persons like you to make some interaction, it is not now face to face. It would have been still better. And to the participants, you would have learned 2 or 3 things which I personally think we should. One, what he told is employee first. When we are at the middle level and senior level, all of us have to take care of the employees who are working with you, their thing. And the most important thing what Mr. Mohapatra told to us at the end is the change starts from you. And I have seen his thirst for learning. When he has switched over from a circle to the Sambi, he is one of the first DMD is heading this stress asset, the group. And from SBI card to State Bank, all these things, the switchover happened only because he has the ability to learn, willingness to learn. And what stands him apart is his equanimity of mind. That means he doesn't get perturbed because of different situations. He is able to handle the situation. That is one of the reasons we have invited you, sir, to interact with the people. At our end, we are trying to groom through this program the future leaders. And the alumni association, when they were discussing with us, many of them has said that this program has helped them. And this Leader Speak series, which was introduced lately here, has helped them immensely. So thank you, sir. And thanks to all the participants. Maybe the time is less. In case the COVID goes away, we can have a face-to-face interaction also, sir. Now,
thank you.
Hand over to Mr. Malhotra, sir, for 2-3 minutes. The director training for formal vote of thanks.
Sir, respected Mohapatra ji, our Das sir, and all my colleagues and the participants. Sir, your deliberation was so thoughtful and thought-provoking that I think the stream of questions will never end here. And I think still the participants are having a lot of questions in their mind. But because of the paucity of time, we understand the issues which you raised. Those are very pertinent to the banking industry, and particularly people working right from the front line to the top positions. I think these issues are haunting everybody. So particularly these three pillars which you mentioned, trust, transparency and accountability, those are the basic pillars of the banking. And if we follow it in the letter and spirit, I think the entire corporate governance and compliance culture will be imbibed in our blood. And there will be no formal structure required for that, because in each and every work, I think those concepts will be coming from within us. As you say rightly, that once we take a decision, many a times we think that we are doing it as per the as our boss has said, and that is why it has to be done. Or if we have to achieve the target, this particular proposal has to be done. So if we are doing these things out of any external force or external emotion, then something is going to be in difficulty at a later stage. And if we follow the basic spirits, basic concepts of the banking, basic principles of banking at that point of time, and do as per our laid down policy procedures, of course, including our gut feel and the vision also, then the things will be right under control. So this is what we are also covering in our sessions when we talk about the pre-sanction appraisals, due diligence and other things. Somebody has rightly pointed out that most of the time we devote our energy and time on the post-mortem analysis, doing the audits, the post-disbursement monitoring and all. But the basic thing, basic care which we have to take at the time of customer acquisition and understanding the customer whether to take him with a bank or not, at that point of time, that much caution is not taken. And there are many factors responsible for that. So you have touched many important areas, sir, in your deliberation. And the person who has risen from the cadres to the top position of the bank and has such a strong courage and boldness to challenge the status quo at each stage, I think nobody can be better than you to train our people and tell them as to what kind of things have to be followed in the day-to-day working. So I am very much thankful to you on my personal behalf, on behalf of the institute, that you have spared your valuable time. Today your meeting was also there, and still you spared a lot of time with us, sir. So I extend a very, very hearty thanks to you on behalf of the institute. Thank you very much, and we look forward for having more and more guidance from you, sir, in future. I was having the opportunity to attend. I was having the opportunity to attend IBA meeting along with you, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And thanks to all the participants.
Thank you, sir.
Sir,
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
sir,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
this is just a question like, what is the stand of 5-day banking, sir? You told you have attended IBA meetings, now. Can Indian banks take 5-day banking in any near term? See, basically we are
But-
stressed out in office and we have taken up this course.
Sir, would you like to say something?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Yes,
You're
sir.
audible.
5 days a week or 7 days a week, madam, I don't believe basically in those things that the productivity of people will go up with 5 days a week, and it should not be only second Saturday or fourth Saturday. But we can have a long discussion on that. But I strongly believe that this type of working style has not helped, might have been of help in developed countries like USA or somewhere else. But you see the other extreme in Japan, where people are falling sick because they have become workaholic. So we have to have a balanced approach, whether 5 days a week throughout the month is okay, or twice in a month is okay. But at the end of the day, I don't feel that if you have only 5 days a week, that is going to improve the productivity. That is my feeling, and I may not be, I will say that palatable to your question, but that is my feeling.
Sir, thank you very much.
Is a quality, not quantity. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Wish you all
Thanks a
the
lot, sir.
best.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you,
So
Madraji.
shall we now
Babita,
leave?
Mr. Sir, yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah, so a
Yeah.
lot of reference to Mr. Misra also.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. This type of interaction is very useful to all of us, sir. Thank you for
Yeah,
this
thank you.
class.
Thank you. And sorry that the paucity of time we could not ask many questions. We will try to make it up in the immersion session maybe.
Just a request to you. Somebody is too much capitalizing 3 questions, 4 questions. You have to monitor that. Maximum 2 questions. Then only opportunity will be given to others. Nobody should be allowed to ask more than 2 questions. That you have
Okay,
to
next time
right.
we'll see
That's
that so that it goes to wider spectrum.
Yeah, right, sir. Very much.
Okay.
So thanks to the CEO,
Thank you.
sir. Thanks
Thank
to the
you.
CEO, sir, first of all, because he has only chosen these speakers and who are giving their.
I agreed. I
Yeah.
chose him because of his wide experience in various fields, from private to
Yes.
public to heading a bank. Okay. Thank you.
This is
Thank
really
you.
of use,
Goodbye.
sir. Thank you very much,
Yeah.
sir.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, sir.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Gilandi
sir.
ji.
Thank you, sir. Thank you,
Okay.
everyone. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.